Hey everybody, so in one of my previous videos that I talked about car stuff, because that's my background, I decided, I said that I would be also doing a video on salvage title vehicles and rebuilt title vehicles and talking a little bit about those. Now I know a lot about them, but I'm not an authority on them. So there might be people that have some input on this that I didn't see or didn't understand or didn't know, but I'll tell you what I know. So when buying a used car, you can buy a car that's been in an accident and repaired. It might have a salvage title because of that. You could buy a vehicle that has been in a flood and it's been repaired so that it's working again. That can be a salvage title vehicle. You can buy a vehicle that has been stolen, and in a lot of cases they've got damage or things were taken off the vehicle, maybe the motor, body panels, whatnot. And that can have a salvage title vehicle or a salvage title. And out of all those vehicles, if I was ever to go buy one, the one I would want would be the one that was stolen, because those ones seem to be the best deal out there. There's not a lot of damage. It's easily repaired in most cases. The motor and stuff's good. It wasn't in a flood. So those are typically the ones you want to get, are the ones that were stolen. They're just a better deal. You understand more about what you're getting into when you buy one of those. A flood car. Now, when I was the owner of Lemon Squad, we looked at a lot of cars that were salvage title for different reasons. Flood was one of them. Now, most sellers, it seems like, that have a flood vehicle for sale will say things like, the water only got as far as the bottom of the vehicle. It never went past that into the car. That's a common thing we hear. Well, if that really truly was the case, it wouldn't have been salvaged. The bottom of the cars are meant to get wet, and it wouldn't have a salvage title. Or they might say that it just got inside the vehicle right at the floor level. But when we go look at them, we can go inside. There's certain things we look for. One is staining on the inside walls or under the dash. And we can see where the water level went, because typically when there's a flood vehicle, it's not like the water just gets to that level and the cars move. It normally sits there for a while in that water because it's a hurricane or something bad's going on to cause this issue. And these cars can sit for a long time, weeks, months like this before anybody gets to them. So there's staining a lot of times. There's also this water that gets into them, carries almost like a sandy kind of a real fine sand that gets into the carpet and goes right through it to the floor. So if you lift up the carpet and look underneath there, you're going to see some of that sand. And you can also look up underneath the dash. There's things underneath the dash, types of metal that have not been treated for rust because they never get wet. But now the floods touched them and they rust very quickly. And I'm not talking where they're rusted out or rotted or anything, but they get a fine coating of rust. And that's a good indicator that something's gone on that shouldn't have. Water got up in there. So the problem with a salvage title vehicle that is a flood vehicle is wiring, computers, things of that nature, ground wires. Those things get wet and they might not cause any issue today, but they're most likely, a lot of times, going to cause issues at some point because there's corrosion now, and that corrosion started, so it keeps growing. That corrosion is what causes the issue. Excuse me. So flood vehicles are probably the worst vehicles to work on as well. With my experience working in a dealership as a mechanic, the worst cars we could work on, the worst cars that came into the shop, weren't the ones with the bad trannies or the bad engines. They were the flood vehicles that now are having this little electrical gremlin in there, and it seems like nobody can figure out where it's at, because now the whole car has got to be looked at for wiring. It's not in your normal spots that you would see wires go bad if you're a normal tech. It's spots that you don't normally see. You got to rip out the seats, get the carpet out of there, get the dash out. There's lots of diagnosing that goes on, and as a mechanic, you're paid for the job, not your time into it. It's called flat rate. So you might have 30 hours diagnosing that thing and fixing it, and sometimes even more for these flood vehicles, and only get paid for 5 hours. Even though you were there that whole time working, for a week, you might not get paid much at all. So as a tech, you don't want to see these cars. They're horrible to work on, and they're too much of a risk to buy. So I would never recommend a salvage title vehicle that is because of a flood. So again, the best one so far is that stolen one, and then having that repaired, and a lot of times it's repaired by the time you buy it, but right now the worst one is the flood vehicle. The other kind are a vehicle that's been in an accident and repaired. So for a vehicle for a vehicle to have a salvage title because of an accident, it had to be a bad accident. And it has to be a certain amount of the money that the car is worth of it, compared to how much damage it was. If it's almost as much to fix it as it was to get another one, they're going to call it a salvage title and take a loss on it and sell it as is. Now, it seems like the people that buy these cars, when they're still in the accident state, are shops and individuals that aren't the greatest repair guys. Really good body shops don't typically buy these cars to repair and resell. The guys that do this are usually backyard kind of mechanic guys, or really nasty shops, shady shops that are taking them, fixing them. And what happens is they're repaired very, very poorly. They're usually not anywhere near the factory type repairs. Frames are bent. They do their best to get it bent back. Tires might wear improperly. You might have weird wearing on the tires that can never be fixed because you can't adjust your steering, having it on an alignment rack, enough to make up the difference of something bent like the frame. So those type of cars can sometimes be a good deal. They can be repaired, fairly well, and still be somewhat safe, and the price you're paying is way under what one would cost that wasn't in an accident. Those can sometimes be a good deal, but you have to be super careful because it could run and drive well, but it might be a vehicle that's just not safe to drive. And if that's the case, it's structurally not sound. It's hard to recommend anything like that. And typically, a lot of people that buy these are parents and stuff buying them from their children, for their children, And who wants to put their child in a car like that? Nobody wants to do that. But you just don't know, and you don't know what to look for, so you end up doing that. And it could be another accident and be like a hot knife through butter. Something hits it and goes right through it because it was repaired so poorly and it's just unsafe. So again, I would recommend never to purchase a flood vehicle, first of all, ever. A car that's been in an accident and has a salvage title, well, if it's been repaired pretty well, I can see that. But you got to get somebody out there that really knows what they're looking at to be able to make that decision and see how well it is. And they'll always downplay these shops, these people selling these, they'll downplay the accident damage. They say it's a salvage title because it had to have a fender replaced. Not true. They don't do that to cars like that and make them salvage over something so small as a fender. Just know that if it's in a salvage title state, it was in a major accident and he's not telling the truth. And they usually don't tell the truth. These are shady people that like to sell these vehicles. I'm sure there's good ones out there, but the guys that normally buy these are shady people doing poor repairs and only caring about making a buck and not giving you what you're paying for. So the best one, of course, is the salvage title because it was stolen. Then comes the accident damage one, and never buy the flood damage one. So anyway, comment on this, guys. I'd like to see what you guys think of this. Is there anybody out there that knows more than I do? Let me know your thoughts. I'd like to know what you have to say. Maybe I'll learn something from you. And I'm all for that. I love to learn. So anyway, guys, have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you on the next video. Thank you.